Hello everyone. A while ago, many of my viewers were asking me about the NC Star Scope that I had mounted on a Model 48 Yugoslavian Mauser. It's an NC Star model, and the NC Star line of products is quite controversial. I mean, it's low cost, but many people have been burned in the past due to its low quality. So I decided to mount it on a rifle and put it through an acid test. 250 rounds of good solid reloads to see if it would stay together. So here are the results. So here's a little bit more information on the NC Star Scope itself. It's a 2.5 power rifle scope. It's fixed. It just for simplicity's sakes and for cheapness, it's got a 30 millimeter main lens, and they're pretty cheap. I think you can get them for less than 50 bucks here in Canada. And it's a really basic scope. Nothing too fancy. Basic turrets. They got normal caps on them. Overall, I'd say the finish quality on it is just as good as any other budget scope that you might get. It does come with a set of lens covers, and it does come with a set of rings, which they kind of suck, but they're usable. They're a little high, the rings that come with this, for a long eye relief scope mount system. They could be lower than this. And I used a Chinese forward eye relief scope mount on it, this adapter here, and it's kind of garbagey. I don't particularly like it. I think it's too high. Personally, I think the Bad Ace tactical mount is a much superior product and can bring it down a quarter to 3/8 of an inch alone, and then on top of that you could get lower mounts for another quarter of an inch or more. So you could have the scope riding down about this level, I think. So half an inch lower. But that's the scope. They're pretty plain Jane, nothing too fantastic about it. It's got a pretty basic normal reticle on it, what you see on most hunting rifles. This is a duplex. I don't believe there's any other choice. It's that or nothing. But overall, the glass is pretty clear. Nothing to complain about there. I shot it mostly during the winter, but I also got some summertime shots through it. And in most lighting conditions, morning through to dusk, it seemed to perform just fine. I wouldn't want to shoot it because of the small aperture, or the small nature of the scope, 30 millimeter. I probably wouldn't want to shoot it at very low light levels. The coatings and stuff on the lenses aren't particularly great, but they do function nice and clear during the day when you have good light, even overcast days or even shady days. I didn't have any problems seeing a 2-inch by 2-inch square at 100 meters through the scope. Which, considering the accuracy of the rifle, I mean, I'm not going to be shooting at anything smaller than that at any more distance than that. I did have good success hitting a 12-inch by, I think it's 24-inch gong all the way out to 300 meters. Hit. 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 Not too shabby. I was getting regular hits, maybe 60% of my shots were hitting that gong at 300 meters. So, that's pretty good, for clarity of the scope and its ability to see detail. I'm plenty happy with that. Okay, so now the load. I wanted to test the scope, put it through some recoil, what you might see on a medium cartridge hunting rifle or milsurp, standard cartridge like 30-06, 308 Winchester, 7x57, 303 Brit. A good full bore cartridge. So this is an 8x57, which good hard shooting cartridge, and I loaded up a bunch of 214 grain bullets. This is the Swedish machine gun ammunition bullet. It's a full metal jacket, and it's It's using the same powder from that cartridge. I've got a video all on this. I think it's about 46 grains of the Swedish machine gun ammo powder, and it's zipping along at about 2,200 feet per second. So, you know, out of a 9-pound rifle, it's in the same class category as most medium bore hunting cartridges like the 30-06. So what I did was I loaded up 250 rounds of the 214 grain Swedish machine gun bullet ammunition, and I took it out and shot it over the course of a year. Most of that shooting was done during the winter times because that's when I have time to do this sort of stuff. So last year's winter and this year's winter, with a smattering of shooting in the summer. Now, I didn't notice any kind of weirdness like erratic shot placements, like up to the left a few shots, down to the right a few shots, up, you know, over here a few shots, you know, that sort of thing. You know, when your scope is starting to go, it will do that sort of stuff. But I did notice that during the summertime it wanted to shoot low and to the right. I set the target up during the winter. I set my sights up during the winter, and during the summer the point of impact changed. Now that could be anything. That could be the scope mount, it could be the rifle itself. The bedding on this rifle isn't particularly great. I'm not blaming that on the scope. I don't think the scope is faulty in any way. It seemed to work just fine. It was very consistent. I was getting like 2 3/4 inch groups at 100 meters, which is standard for this particular rifle, even with iron sights. And I'd say that it's pretty darn good, you know, for a scope that's less than $50. So who is this scope for? Well, I'd say anybody who's getting, well, they're not young chickens anymore, you know, they're not 21 anymore, and their eyesight is starting to go a little bit, and they need something, you know, to give them a little boost for their milsurp rifles, especially stuff like, well, the Mausers are kind of notorious for having terrible sights when you've got bad eyesight. And a scope mount like this, or similar enough to this, with the scope, is actually, well, it gives you a good leg up. You can actually see your target and shoot at it. You can get some more enjoyment out of your rifle, even into your later years when your eyesight is starting to go. So it's definitely good enough for that. So I could see somebody, you know, for $200, you could buy yourself, you know, the next line up, or, you know, for $300 you can get yourself a Leupold version of this, or you could buy 4 to 6 of these. Like, really, most guys that are shooting this type of rifle are doing it for fun. They're doing it during the daytime. They're doing it during nice weather. You know, good visibility during that time. They don't have to worry about weather extremes. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They're just out there having fun, shooting tin cans for the most part. And it's plenty good enough for that. I mean, the other products that you can buy, yes, they are better. Yes, they're probably more durable. Yes, they're better quality and probably last a lot longer. But how many people are actually going to be going to war with a rifle set up like this, where you need to have that kind of quality and that kind of ability to take abuse? Like, for the most part, if this scope fails on you, the guy who's going to be using it, well, it's an inconvenience at most, because you're not going to be using it during competition, because you know, at a milsurp competition you probably won't be running optics. You'll be running as issued. So really, why spend $300 on a Leupold when you could buy 6 of these things for the same cost? You know, if 2 of them fail, oh well, you still got 4 left. 4 good ones. And you can mount them on 4 different rifles, because how many milsurp guys out there have just one milsurp rifle? Not too many. Most of them have multiple ones. Kind of like me. I've got a whole bunch of different rifles that I could set this up on. So do I want to spend $600, you know, $600, $900, $1,200? Or do I just want to spend, you know, maybe $200, get 4 of them, and more than likely all 4 of them work just fine on 4 different rifles? Well, I think that's a pretty damn good purchase for the cost. So that's it for me, folks, on this one. I would say go ahead and buy one of these. I would say go ahead and buy 6 of these if you really want to. I mean, really, at the end of the day, 6 of them is only going to be like, what, 300 bucks? Maybe buy 4. You know, 4. 4 should be good. 4 should be really good. You know, 200 bucks. You can get 4 of them, and then equip every single one of your Mauser rifles with the same scope. That's a pretty good idea. So have a good one, folks. I know that this one took a long time to get out, and I apologize for that, but I needed to get that, you know, a good number of rounds down the tube to make sure that this sucker would actually stay together for you guys. And have a good one, and I'll see you out on the range.